All right, hello guys. Today we're talking all about strength training for mountaineering, and we're going to be discussing the big debate around squats or step-ups. Now, more specifically, we're going to be talking about sport-specific training for mountaineering, what you should be doing in the gym, which are going to greatly improve your performance on the mountain. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this today is because it's an incredibly misunderstood subject, both in the mountaineering world and the general sports world in general. And it leads to a lot of mountaineers out there just really not knowing what they should be doing in the gym. And they put a huge amount of effort into their training, but they're not getting the results that they potentially could. So today I'm going to be breaking down sport-specific training for mountaineering, just giving you a little bit of insight, a little bit of a deeper understanding about how it all works. So to start with, a little bit of introduction. If you haven't heard of me before, basically my name is Rowan Smith. I'm the founder of Summit Strength, which is a personal training service for trekkers and mountaineers. Now, basically what I do is I apply strength conditioning into the world of trekking and mountaineering, something which is done very, very slightly. But in all honesty, there's so much more room for improvement. And my big tagline is I help people get fit, strong, and resilient for their dream adventures. Now, I do personal training in Sydney, but the majority of the stuff I do is online based, and I've helped a number of mountaineers prepare for quite a few different adventures. So as I said before, today what we're talking about is sport-specific training for mountaineering. At the end of this video, the intention is you're going to understand how to strike the balance between sport-specific training and general strength work in the gym, because I know there's a huge amount of confusion around that and no one really knows how they should be balancing these two things out. Now, the idea behind this video is by the end, you'll be able to take this framework, which I'm about to teach you, and these principles I'm about to teach you, and apply it to your own training so you can really get that strong balance between sport-specific training and general strength work and ensure that you're getting the best results possible from your training that's going to help you on the mountain. Alternatively, if you're not 100% confident or you don't do your own training, create your own training, you can use this template and this framework to allow your coach to make more intelligent decisions. Now, the reason why this is so important, particularly for mountaineers, is there's not a huge amount of coaches out there who specialize in mountaineering. And there's not a huge amount of coaches out there, or strength coaches or personal trainers, or however you want to coin it, who really understand the specific demands of mountaineering. So it leads to a lot of people in their preparation, if they are getting help, just getting this really general advice, and just getting this advice which might get them ready, it might not, it might be good use of their time, it might not, and they'll really hit and miss. So the beauty of this framework is you can take it, and you can take it to any half competent coach in the world if you understand it and you work through the activities that we're going to go through today, and you can say, look, I need to work on this and this, and this is the reasons behind it. You can take that and give that to a coach, and they'll be able to put together a really good program for you. So it's really going to empower you either in your own training or with your training with a coach to get the best out of your effort that you're putting in. So I think this is going to be incredibly valuable for quite a few people. So to start things off, in the mountaineering world, as I said before, there's a huge amount of confusion around sport-specific training in the gym. Now, in one camp, there's the people who say, look, every single thing you do in the gym should really look like and mimic the demands on the mountain. And the classic example here is step-ups. Obviously, that's the most specific thing you can do for when you're climbing up the mountain. So people are like, all I have to do is just lots and lots of step-ups, or 90% of the stuff I do is that. In the other end of things are the people who are like, you know what, all you need is squats and deadlifts. All you need to do is lift heavy and apply this work into your training. As long as you get strong, that's going to transfer onto the mountain, and that's going to help. And in all honesty, both of these camps are sort of missing the mark here. It is actually a happy medium between the two, and we're going to be explaining that today. And the other end of things, which I didn't mention, are the people who end up doing something really complicated stuff. So they might be doing one-legged squats on a Bosu ball and say that's going to transfer on the mountain. And again, kind of missing the point. So today we're just going to make sure you know exactly how you can build this out. So the thing that most people miss when it comes to their strength training is your exercises don't have to look exactly like mountaineering to be relevant. So first thoughts, yes, step-ups look very similar to mountaineering. Pull-ups look very similar to what you're doing. But your whole strength training doesn't have to be around that. In all honesty, the majority of a strength training program, or a structured, progressive, and specific strength training program, is actually designed to make you better at a handful of key movements. Now, these key movements are the ones that are actually going to transfer to your improvement on the mountain. So 80% of the stuff you're doing is not specifically and directly going to help you on the mountain. What it's trying to do is improve these key movements, which are the ones that are going to help you on the mountain. That's an incredibly important point to make, and that's what we're going to be running through today and really, really go into detail so you understand that 100%. If you are interested in training for mountaineering, more than likely you've come across uphill athletes who are really the industry leaders, and they're really the only people who put out any content around this. And they like to talk about what's known as dumb and smart strength. And they basically make it really, really simple. They say in your base period where you're doing all your big blocks of volume training, you're developing dumb strength. You're doing squats, you're doing deadlifts, you're just developing maximal strength and strength reserve. And then as you get closer to your trip and you get into your peak period, you take that maximal strength and you turn it into smart strength, which is really, really specific stuff, which is going to help you on the mountain. And that is a really good framework in a very, very basic sense, but it does tend to miss out on a few key concepts. And the only problem there is it just leaves a lot of room for misinterpretation and misapplication from people trying to do it themselves. So today we're going to go quite a bit deeper than that and try to explore and explain exactly what you're trying to achieve. So when we're talking about the framework for your sport-specific training, this is what you want to be looking at. Now, to start with, this is not something that I've developed myself. I've borrowed this concept from a guy called Lachlan Wilmot, who's one of the top strength and conditioning coaches in Australia, and is someone who I've mentored under in my past and someone I learned a lot from. Basically, he uses this framework. As a strength and conditioning coach, he works with all different types of athletes, from rugby league athletes to marathon runners to field athletes to badminton to sprinters. And for every single person he works with, he needs a system to understand how to apply specific sports strength training for them. And this is the system we're going to go through, which is going to explain the difference between really, really super specific stuff to other general stuff in the gym and how that applies. So we're going to break down all of this stuff. So to start with, what we want to discover something that's called critical sporting movements. So a critical sporting movement is basically a specific movement you're going to be undertaking on the mountain. So this is the exact type of things you're going to be doing when you're on the mountain, when you're on your adventure, when you're doing whatever, which you need to get better and you need to improve on. So a couple of really, really simple examples here for mountaineering is incline hiking under load. Everyone's going to do that in one way or another. Some people won't have a huge amount of load. Some people will be really, really jacked up. But that's something more or less every single mountaineer is going to be dealing with. Obviously, the other end of that is descents. So the body handles some different demands during the descents. And that's a common cause of injury and pain. That's another specific and critical sporting movement. There's vertical climbing, depending on what adventure you're going on. And there's a whole bunch of other things. So the first thing you want to be thinking about is, what are you actually trying to improve on the mountain? What areas are the critical areas of success you need to improve and you need to work on to help you get through this adventure? Now, depending on the technicality of your climb and whatever adventure you're doing, what you want to do here is come up with about 3 to 6 different critical sporting movements. So you want to sit down, you want to brainstorm this, you want to really, really think, what is my particular adventure coming up? You could either do this as a general mountaineering sense or really, really specific around your trip coming up. And then you need to identify about 3 to 6 of these. And these are going to be the direct things you're trying to improve in your training. That's step number 1, which is really, really important to understand. Next up, you're going to discover what's known as the first degree movements. Now, first degree movements are basically key movements or lifts in the gym, which enhance the specific aspects of those critical sporting movements you've identified. So I'll say that again. These are things you're going to do in the gym, which are going to directly improve your movements when you're on the mountain. So these are going to look at really, really similar to your movements when you're actually on the mountain. And this is the really, really sport-specific stuff, which people love. And this is the stuff that's going to be incredibly familiar to a lot of people. Each critical sporting movement you identify will have a few of these first degree movements. So for the examples before, there was the uphill or hiking under load. More than likely, there's going to be a few exercises in the gym, which are going to look really, really similar to that. Same thing to your descents. There's going to be a few exercises in the gym which are going to look similar to that and any other critical sporting movements you've identified. So you want to basically identify these exercises which look very, very similar to this, which is directly going to improve this. And these are going to be known as what's known as your big rock exercises, which are basically the main rocks and the most significant things you need to do in the gym, which is going to directly improve your performance on the mountain. Now, a really common, easy one here, if we're using the example of hiking uphill, is a barbell step up. a relatively low box. Super, super specific, pretty much exactly the same as what you're going to be doing on the mountain, but you're going to be loading that up very, very heavy with a barbell on your back. You can go a lot heavier than with a dumbbell. You can get a bit of core bracing, you challenge a bit of stability. But this is about as specific as you can get, and this is probably one of the most directly effective exercises at transferring onto your performance when you're going uphill. So, a real easy example here, you can see here, barbell on my back, I got about 60 kilos there, which is probably not incredibly heavy, but I wasn't very warmed up or anything like that. But as you can see, you got to set your brace, you got to drive a reasonable amount of force through there, and you're going to be doing, depending on what stage of preparation you're at, will depend on your repetitions, but that is incredibly specific to what you're doing on the mountain, and that's going to be what's known as a first degree movement. Now, other things here might be something like a pistol squat. It might be something like if you're looking at descent, that might be something dealing with that. And it might be a pull up if you're looking at vertical climbing. It really depends on what you've identified. But yeah, you want to get your first degree movements sorted. So once you've identified those first degree movements, which are going to directly improve your performance on the mountain, then you want to identify your second degree movements. So these are accessory movements, which basically enhance your ability to perform those first degree movements. Now, if you did these by themselves, they might not directly improve your performance on the mountain, but the intention here, they're going to improve your performance doing things like those step ups or those pistol squats, and therefore that's going to improve your performance in the end game. So what these do, they assist your big rock exercises, and these are the ones that generally are not going to look like your sport, and then generally not going to be looking like what you're exactly doing on the mountain. So this is where things like squats come in, where deadlifts come in. A few others I love, single leg deadlifts, single leg hip thrusts, lunge variations. None of these things really look incredibly similar to what you're doing on the mountain, and you could argue they're not specific enough, but when you break it down in this, that they're going to help the really, really specific exercises, that's where they come in. Now, you could probably argue that the lunge variations might be a first degree movement or not, really up to you, but for me, I tend to put in the second degree movements here. But this is where those heavy lifts and that real traditional lifting is going to come in. Now, each critical sporting movement that you have will have a first degree movements. So all these ones here I wrote up are directly relevant to the hiking uphill, to improving that single leg step up with the barbell on the back. So the squat's going to improve it, the deadlift's going to improve it, the single leg deadlift, the single leg hip thrust, the lunge, they're all designed to improve that step up. So an example here, this is one of my variations, which I love, for the single leg deadlift, leg back on the bench, not much weight there, but just getting the form right. And as you can see, this is going to hit the hamstrings, the glutes, and the obliques, get that posterior chain going. And that's going to be relatively effective to improving your performance in that step up. So that's what you're thinking with second degree movements. And then the final movements we want to identify come down to what's called third degree movements. So the idea behind these is they're going to build your resilience during critical sport movements and first degree movements. So the real key behind here is injury prevention. So they're not directly going to improve your performance, but they're going to target weak spots. They're going to help reduce problems that might creep up along the way, and basically improve your resilience while you're actually on the mountain and while you're doing those big rock exercises. And these are so important, which often get overlooked in the mountaineer's preparation. And particularly if you are following the uphill athlete, guys, a lot of the stuff, at least in their content around the book and online, there's not a huge amount of emphasis around this stuff. But I'm a firm believer that this stuff really does need to be done pretty regularly for mountaineers. So examples here are things like mini band walks, dead bug variations, terminal knee extensions, pale-off press variations, calf raises. These are all going to improve your resilience in your critical time on the mountain and also your big rock exercises. So if you want to break that down, your mini band walks are working your glute medius, which is going to improve hip and knee stability, which is going to fight your knee falling in. So you're going to reduce likelihood of injury when you're doing the step up, because if your knee falls in while you're doing that, that's not a good thing. And also while you're on the mountain, if your knee falling in every single step, that's not good. Dead bug variations, they're going to be working something called anti-extension strength, which is basically stopping your lower back hyperextending. Now, if you've got a heavy load on your back, or if you've got a barbell on your back when you're doing the step ups, hyperextension through the lower back can lead to pain and injury. So preventing that. Terminal knee extensions are working your VMO, which is a small muscle in the inside of your quads. Again, that's going to support your knee, stop that falling in, and it's going to be really important. Pale-off press variations, they're going to prevent rotation through the lumbar spine, which if you've got a heavy load on your back, whether it's a pack or a barbell, really, really important. And calf raises, just generally everyone needs calf raises to be on the mountain, and they're super relevant. So these are generally not going to look like the sport, but if you break them down like I just did there, everything's got a reason to build resilience during those critical sporting movements and the first degree movements. And there's literally dozens and dozens and dozens of exercises here. You need to pinpoint which ones you personally need, where your weaknesses are, where your limitations are, what exercises you're trying to protect, and then you need to choose this intelligently. So an example here, which isn't in that list, but this is an easy one that I like for mountaineers, a plank with a hip flexor hold. Basically, this is working anti-extension strength through the lower back, and then also building up resilience and strength in the hip flexors, which are pretty common to get injured. Really simple exercise, and that's where your third degree movements can come in. So breaking that all down again, this is the framework. First, you want to identify those critical sporting movements. Next, you want to get rid of the, identify the first degree movements, which are those really, really sport specific movements. Next, the second degree movements, the ones that are going to improve your first degree movements. And then next, the third degree movements, which are going to protect against injury during the big rock exercises and the time on the mountain. So really it comes from super, super specific to not incredibly specific, but they all have their place in a mountaineer strength training program. So summing things up, here are a few action points for you. If you've watched this whole video, you're sort of getting an inkling around how this works, how this sport-specific stuff applies into your life. This is what I want you to do. I want you to sit down now for half an hour and list out areas on the mountain that you need to improve on. List out 3 to 5 of these critical sporting movements. Have a think about your ascent, your descent, any technical skills you're going to be doing, any things on the approach you're going to come across, any of that, and identify those really, really key critical movements that you need to improve on. Once you've identified them, then you want to identify the exercises which are best going to improve this time on the mountain. So every single one of those critical sporting movements, you want to come up with about 1 to 3 exercises per this. So as I listed off before, for your hiking uphill, you're going to be doing probably a step up with a barbell on your back. You might be doing a Bulgarian split squat with dumbbells. You might be doing a, I don't know, they're probably good enough, getting 2. For descents, you might be looking at a pistol squat. You know, you can list these off and really, really have a think about this and spend some time going through this. Next one, you're going to identify which exercises are going to support these big rock exercises. So generally for most mountaineers, this is going to be your squats, your deadlifts, so stock standard gym lifts, which are really, really important here. Now, this is again, if you don't know how to do these big exercises where you're going to be shifting quite a bit of weight, where you're going to be shifting load, this is probably worthwhile investing in a bit of coaching here. For the sport specific ones, generally they're not incredibly complex. Most mountaineers can get their head around and teach themselves how to do that. But if you don't know how to squat and you don't know how to deadlift, and you've never really gone down that path, it's probably worth investing in a few sessions with a coach to learn how to do them effectively and safely, because they really do have their place in a mountaineer's prep. And then finally, you want to identify other areas which need resilience. So you want to have a think about your injury history. You want to have a think about any potential points of weakness, which often get tired, often get fatigued, often get sore, or any potential trouble spots that you are aware of. And you're saying, like, if I've got a super huge descent one day, more than likely your knees are going to get hammered. So you got to identify what exercise is going to help there. And you really want to have a think about that and list out exercises which is going to help you. So once you've done all that, then you can use this framework to either make decisions in your own programming and make a decision about how you're going to come up with and choose your exercises and what actions you need to do to best improve your performance on the mountain. Or alternatively, you can take this framework and take these exercises you've identified and discuss this with your coach. So you can literally go away and go, look, coach, I want to improve my hiking on the load. So I've identified I need to get better at the single leg step up. Can you write me up a program which is going to include that, but also include exercises which is going to make me better at that single leg step up and also protect against injury. 99% of competent coaches are probably going to be able to put together a program for you there. So you don't need to be seen as a specialist if you have this framework and you really, really understand it. So a lot of information there to digest. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video today. I'm going to be releasing quite a few more in-depth videos around preparation for mountaineering, because it's a subject which really does get butchered online, and it's probably very, very worthwhile diving into this a little bit deeper. If you do have any questions about all of this, please do email me at rowan@summitstrength.com.au. I'm more than happy to discuss this, any points, and if you need any help putting this together yourself or anything like that. Alternatively, if you did need a bit of help with your preparation and you're like, you know what, I can't be bothered to do this by myself, or I'm a little bit overwhelmed, please come and have a look at my programming and have a look at my company at summitstrength.com.au. I do both in-person, Sydney-based, but majority online-based coaching for trekkers and mountaineers. So if you do need help with this, you do need injury prevention, you do need to improve your endurance and a whole bunch of other stuff, look me up, swing me a message, and I'm more than happy to help. So I very much hope you've gotten some value out of this today. I really hope you've sort of gotten a bit of an insight around how sport-specific training can help your time on the mountain and how to apply that into the gym. Let me know how it all goes. Reach out to me anytime, but we'll talk to you very soon.